Okay, it's Saturday, January the 6th, 5 days before the new moon. The weather has been the weather around here. I haven't gotten much in the way of opportunity to do deep sky since the 1st of January. Poked my head out tonight and noticed that Jupiter is looking pretty good up there. I can see the brighter first magnitude stars. I can see the Pleiades. I'm going to have to set up the observatory. I need to run the 650 to 699 series of NGCs before the situation gets problematic with the surreal clock. Fortunately, it only takes me about 2 minutes to set up the observatory. I can't tell you whether or not the conditions will remain throughout the evening, but I am going to make a run at it. I also need to finish up a series that I had started earlier. It's the 700 to 750 series. I managed to leap over 650 to 700, but I got about a little more than halfway through that 700 to 750 series. And it's been fortunate though, because I am putting together what I call Mathematica Galactica. And the first phase of it will be to discuss how you can determine, based on galaxy information, your scope size and sky conditions, whether or not you will get a decent view through your scope. Anyway, hang in there. Let's hope we get through this. All right, here we go. What you're seeing there is Hamel, Alpha Aries. Gives you an idea of where things should turn up. Hamel's fairly far north, so as things go south, we should see them drift off. The scope is looking east, thankfully, but it may have to do a flip later on in the evening. There's our first view. Let's see if we can pick up 891 before it progresses too far west. As you see, 891 is taking its appearance up in that part of the screen, which is not anywhere near Hamel, so maybe there's some stellar drift going on with the data associated with Hamel. Before I leave, I will probably center up on Hamel. I'm also noticing there's a good deal of light to dark drift across the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to improve the brightness. I've noticed that as you make the brightness go too low, you start to see that. Let's try brightness of 25 for the time being. NGC 891 is taking form there. I do want to read the data in because I'm doing that Mathematica Galactica, so I want to make sure I capture NGC 891 is a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 9.9, long 13.1, narrow 2.8 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, 29 million light years distant. We're at plus 42 degrees. I will center it up before I go looking for other galaxies. I'm still noticing a bit of a light to dark transition on the screen. I may play with that later on in the evening. Just a quick reference, this is where I'm now going to synchronize the scope to with NGC 891. And you know what, I think I may not have synchronized to Hamel, so that may not have been the issue, but I am going to synchronize to NGC 891. Unfortunately, NGC 650 and 651 were the beautiful M60, I believe it's M76 planetary nebula in Perseus. So we're not going to get a look. It was just too far north. So let's start off with NGC 652. I may be able to catch the planetary later, but I have to start, well, forget it now because, well, possibly later on this evening. We'll look for it because I'll probably have to do a scope flip. Anyway, this should be NGC 652, galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 13.6, 1 by 0.6 arc minute spiral with peculiarities, 239 million light years distant. We're at plus 8 degrees, right ascension 140.43. The galaxy is right about there. That is not a particularly good look, I'm surprised, for a 13.6 magnitude galaxy. NGC 653 is a partially blocked galaxy in Andromeda. It's magnitude 13.4. Edgy on 1.5 by 0.2 arc minutes. Spiral with a lowercase ab, 243 million light years distant. Is that plus 38? plus 36, almost 35, almost 36 degrees north. I'm sorry I'm rushing a little bit here. The weather could collapse, but the galaxy is at a good part of the screen right there. NGC655 is a galaxy in Cetus, the whale, magnitude 14, little sub-football shape, 1.4 by 0.9 arc minutes, a lenticular spiral class O, 390 million light years distant, makes it almost as large as Messier 31. I am not getting much of a view on the screen, although I'm seeing something faint right about there. We're at minus 13 degrees, so we've lost probably 2 magnitudes in terms of the intensity of its light, making it about a magnitude 16 view, and that's what I'm seeing. NGC656 is a galaxy nicely positioned in Pisces. It's magnitude 13.4, but pretty much face on, 1.5 by 1.3 arc minutes, spiral with a bar, lenticular, 178 million light years distant. We're at plus 26 and change in terms of declination, and I believe the galaxy is right about there. Could be a bit larger and brighter, but it's only 1.5 arc minutes across, so we're only really seeing the core and some fuzziness on this lenticular. NGC658, another galaxy in Pisces, but further south and brighter. We're at plus 28 and a little plus 12 plus a little more than a half degrees. It's a magnitude 12.5 galaxy, largest 3 by 1.6 arc minute spiral with a lowercase b. So it's presenting oblately at 134 million light years distant, which puts it at about 130,000 light years in diameter, and the galaxy is quite visible there. The tip of my finger. We should be seeing a fairly large, brightish galaxy, and we are. The scope didn't make a tick at all, so I'm not sure what exactly happened there. NGC660 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 11.2, 8 by 2.9 arc minutes, so that's about a 3-to-1 aspect ratio. Spiral with a bar and a lowercase a, and peculiarities, 41 million light years distant, puts it at probably about 110,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 13 and a little bit more than a half degrees, and we are actually getting a decent view of this one. First galaxy of the evening in Triangulum, NGC661 is a galaxy, magnitude 12.2, 1.6 by 1.3 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 174 million light years distant, means probably about 80,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus almost 29 degrees in declination, and the galaxy is quite present on the screen in the usual location for this evening. Definitely getting some blockage on NGC662, galaxy in Andromeda at plus almost 38 degrees. It's magnitude 12.9, but smallish, 0.8 by 0.5 arc minutes, 256 million light years distant. This must be a pretty intense galaxy. It's just a spiral with a lowercase c. And as I said, we're almost at 38 degrees. We're probably blocking at least a third of the aperture of the scope, so don't expect too much out of this sub-13th magnitude size galaxy. We have been skipping over a number of NGCs. Most of those have all been open clusters in Cassiopeia, too far north. Here we are with NGC664, galaxy in Pisces, brightish, magnitude 12.8, 1.5 by 1.3 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, 243 million light years distant, and we're at a little change more than 4 degrees northern declination. And I do see the galaxy. How about you? NGC665 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 12.1, largish, 2.4 by 1.6 arc minutes, spiral, the lenticular class, 245 million light years distant, puts it at about 160,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 10 and almost a half degrees in declination. Right ascension 1, 44, 56. The galaxy is quite present. This galaxy in Triangulum has a number that needs some redemption. It's NGC666. Magnitude 13.4, 0.7 by 0.5 arc minutes, spiral with peculiarities, 217 million light years distant. So it's probably about 50,000 to 60,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 34 and change degrees. We are getting a little bit of scope blockage up there, probably even a little bit more than a little bit. but at least we got the data and some hints of what it might look like. We're going to lose some presence on NGC 667 as well, but not because the lens of the telescope is blocked partially, because we're very far south, almost minus 23 degrees for a galaxy in Cetus, faintish, magnitude 14.2, 0.6 by 0.5 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, but very distant, 531 million light years, puts it at about 85,000 light years in diameter. As mentioned, we're at almost minus 23 degrees in declination, and any view of this 14th magnitude galaxy would be intriguing. And the only way to tell whether we saw it is to watch the galaxy form on the screen as it formed. We've gone farther north than I would like to, but 36.5 degrees to NGC 668, galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 13.1. 1.8 by 1.2 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, 200 million light years distant, and we're about 36.5 degrees in declination. We probably lost half the aperture of the scope. Not too much further south from NGC 668 is 669, galaxy in Triangulum, magnitude 12.3. Nice, 3.1 by 0.6 arc minutes. Too bad we're not getting all the aperture on this one. Spiral with a lowercase ab. 215 million light years distant, puts it probably up around 180 to 190,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 35.5 degrees in declination. Let's just hope. I do believe I'm seeing it here, and we're getting some idea of its features. Not bad for losing half the aperture of the scope. Well, here's a decent galaxy. It's a little further south at plus 28 degrees. We're at NGC 670, another galaxy in Triangulum. It's magnitude 12.7. Nice aspect ratio, 2.1 to 0.9. Lenticular spiral class O, 170 million light years distant, puts it at about 100,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 28 degrees, and I'm trying to determine whether we're getting any aperture block. If we are, it's only about an inch or so. Our first galaxy of the night in Aries, NGC 671, galaxy, magnitude 13.2, 3 to 1 aspect ratio, 1.5 to what? 3 to 1? Spiral with peculiarities, 249 million light years distant. We're at plus 13 and change degrees, not a bad part of the sky, and the galaxy is quite present in showing extensions. About 10 degrees north of where we were just in Aries is NGC 672, and the galaxy is located in Triangulum. Bright and large. We're at plus 27.5 degrees. I do not think we're getting any aperture block. If we are, it's minimal. The galaxy is magnitude 10.9, 7.5 by 2.6 arc minutes, spiral with a bar and a lowercase c. Look for that bar. A mere 22 million light years distant, but that puts it at probably about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 27.5 degrees in declination. Hopefully we aren't losing too much aperture on this one, because it's looking fairly intriguing. Although I'm seeing lots of splotching on the screen, probably due to water vapor dispersal of light in the atmosphere. Back further south into Aries for NGC 673, galaxy, magnitude 12.6, 2.1 by 1.7 arc minutes, pretty much a football, spiral with a lowercase c. 233 million light years distant, puts this at about the size of Messier 52 at about 150,000 light years. We're at plus 11.5 degrees. We're approaching, but not quite there yet, hour 2 in right ascension. NGC 674 is another galaxy in Aries, but further north. It's also NGC 697, magnitude 12, largish, 4.4 by 1.4 arc minute. So it's probably about average surface brightness of about magnitude 14.5, spiral with a bar, lowercase bc, 140 million light years distant, probably about 175,000 light years in diameter. We are at plus 22 and change degrees north declination. And boy, we're not seeing much of this galaxy. I think the sky may be degrading at this point. I am seeing fuzziness on Jupiter. Sorry folks, I'm going to push through anyway, so at least we captured the data, because this may be the only night for a while. We're supposed to have a week of rain here in Grant County. Well, folks, we're going to wrap it for this evening. Maybe it'll clear up, but I doubt it. We're at NGC650, another galaxy in Aries. It's magnitude 15.5. We're not going to see much of anything. I'm not even seeing stars. All we're getting here are artifacts on the screen. It's a magnitude 15.5, 1 by 0.4 Archimedes spiral with peculiarities, 239 million light years distant. We're at plus 13 degrees and we haven't quite gotten, oh, this one's thrown back a little bit, 1 hour, 49 minutes and 8 seconds in declination. It's knockoff time, folks. Carpe. Well, let's take a look at 891 just so we can see how really bad it is. Well, it's doubtful we'll see anything of 891. We're getting aperture block. There's high, thin clouds. And remember, I noticed earlier that we were starting to get speckling on the screen from reflected light. I think I'm seeing a little bit of nebulosity there, but I'll give it 10 seconds or so, and then I'm going to knock off, cross my fingers, and hope that things do improve. Maybe this is temporary. It doesn't look as bad to the east, but that simply means the weather is blowing in from the west. Carpe noctem. Monday, January 15, 2024. First sky I have seen in over 2 weeks, and of course it comes around when the moon is back. Not that the sky will hold. You can see, possibly, that we have a serious amount of icicleage. Mountains in the distance are very covered with snow. So is the backyard. I've already cleared a path to Penti, the soft ice cream cone. You can tell how much snow we've had. That's about 15 inches of deposit. I did get out, I did scrape off the deck a little bit. I am now about to remove the snow from the observatory so that I will have a chance to potentially get caught up. And there's a very beautiful sky there, and the camera's on the low luminosity, but you might just get a view of Canyon Mountain in the distance there. Very beautiful here in John Day Valley, and very, very cold. Okay, I don't think you can see anything, but there's the inside view of the observatory. There's a little bit of snow in the corners. Nothing on the telescope, power's still up. About to throw open the other roof try, and then I think more light will get in. You'll have a better look. Well, I was hoping you'd have a little more light on the subject. Remember, I have this camera set up for imaging the screen on the scope. I don't think I'm seeing much of it in there. But now I've got the telescope exposed. I'm going to turn on the mount, make sure it's parked. Then I have to do a star alignment. There are high, thin clouds tonight. I can see Jupiter and you can see the moon. I really do need to get caught up, at least finish up the 650 to 700 and the 700 to 750 series, which were curtailed due to weather changes that occurred when I did manage to get out when there was no moon. But there is our look. I'll recharge the camera a little bit more and come out and do a star alignment. Okay, once again, it's Monday the 15th of January. Moon's at about 4th day of its cycle. Usually don't like to be out at this point. I wouldn't ordinarily go out on a night like this, except I have some recovery to make. The moon's got an aura about it, so we're not really going to get very good views tonight. This is Alpheratz you're seeing right here. We're not going to get particularly good views, but I've got to get caught up on the NGC series if there's any hope whatsoever. If there's any hope whatsoever that I'm going to get through the series this year. Well, I'm in night mode, which means no color. It also means, come on, where are you? that we're going to have an IR on, which is helpful for heat. Gives a little deeper view of galaxies because it's more in the red range. We do have a Lumicon Deep Sky filter in place, which is normative. And we are about to go to NGC, I do believe it is 625, but I'll let you know. I have to consult my card because I've already got half of this series done earlier in the month. I think it's January 1st actually. I could see all kinds of icy crystals in the sky. We'll probably see some on the screen. We're not going to go as deep. We'll capture the data. I'll include it with earlier views, and we'll have some comparo views along the way. So let's go ahead and let's just take a look at that nice edge-on galaxy before we get started. NGC650-699 is that edge-on galaxy on the border of Andromeda and Perseus. We're just beginning to get a view of it. I can't see the dark lane yet. We'll give it a chance to form on the screen. This will give us an idea of what might be feasible this evening. If this is as good a view as we're going to get, we're probably not going to see much more than 14th magnitude galaxies this evening. As I said before, I need to move forward anyway in order to get caught up. It is very cold here, but I hear it is much colder in Iowa tonight and elsewhere in the country. So we're going to be looking at NGC 671 through 699 and then skip on to 725 to 749. And if we cover all of those, I'll be able to publish 2 more in the series, and they will be linear in the series in terms of developing the NGC catalog series in sequence. So let's cross our fingers. We're probably wearing gloves and see if we can't pick these babies out this evening. Not a good look right there, though. I have no idea how much of my own vapor is depositing itself on the TFT screen, and simply because it's so cold out. We also have a serious problem with high icy atmospheric clouds. All of that is going to make for a less than satisfying view for these studies, but let's push on anyway. I'll recap them later on if I can, if I get a chance to, after the lunacy passes and the weather improves, which is not supposed to happen for at least a week. NGC 671 is a galaxy that I did image already earlier in the month. Galaxy in Aries, magnitude 13.2, 3:1 aspect ratio, 1.5 to 0.05, spiral with some peculiarities, 249 million light years distant. We're at right ascension 146.59, declination 1307.30, and there is a possibility of seeing the galaxy on the screen right about there, but I would make, oh, right there is even fainter fuzzy, where I would expect it to be. That's terrible for a magnitude 13 galaxy, but we'll live with it. This would have been a fine view otherwise, but it's NGC 672, a galaxy in Triangulum. Magnitude 10.9, 7.5 by 2.6 arc minutes. I do believe I captured this previously. Spiral with a bar and lowercase c, just 22 million light years distant. We're at plus 27.5 degrees in declination. I can't tell you whether there might be some hints, but there does seem to be a faint glow right about the largest faint glow somewhere there right on the screen. NGC 673 is another galaxy. This one's in Aries, magnitude 12.6, 2.1 by 1.7 arc minutes. Should give a fine view normally, but maybe not under these conditions. Spiral with lowercase c, 233 million light years distant. We're at plus 11.5 degrees in declination. I do seem to see something that's suggestive of a galaxy right there on the screen. NGC 674 is another galaxy in Aries. Also, NGC697, magnitude 12, largish 4.4 by 1.4 arc minutes, would ordinarily be a very nice view. Spiral with a bar, lowercase bc, 140 million light years distant. We're at 22 and almost a half degrees, and you can faintly make out the galaxy located right where we would expect it to be in the middle of the screen. NGC675 is another galaxy in Aries, magnitude 15.5, not much hope there on a night like this. 1 by 0.4 arc minutes, spiral with some peculiarities, 239 million light years distant. We're at plus 13 degrees. Not much hope for this. NGC676 is a galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 10.5, should be a nice one, 4.2 by 1.6 arc minutes, so suboblately presented, 67 million light years distant. We're at plus almost 6 degrees in declination, and I cannot tell you whether or not there is any presence of a galaxy on the screen, although at magnitude 10.5 that could very well be the core, but questionable. You know, there's a really nice series of galaxies we're seeing in the 650 series. This is another 12.2 NGC677 galaxy in Aries. 230 million light years distant, elliptical, pure circular sphere, 2 by 2 arc minutes. Given its distance, this baby is pretty big for an elliptical galaxy. No doubt at least 160,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 13 degrees in declination. And I do see it faintly on the screen. Nice sequence of numbers here. NGC678, another galaxy in Aries, magnitude 12.2, largest 4.1 by 0.8 arc minutes, which means this has got about an average surface brightness of about magnitude 14, 14.5. It's a spiral with a bar in lowercase b, 127 million light years distant. We are at declination almost precisely at 22 degrees north. Well, there's so many fine galaxies in this sequence, I would definitely want to revisit it if I get a chance. This is NGC679, a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 12.3, face on 2.1 by 2.1 arc minute size, apparent size lenticular spiral, 230 million light years distant. This was also a fairly large galaxy, probably 175,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 36 degrees, and because we are looking westward, there's no blockage whatsoever of the 6 inches of aperture of this scope. Quite a roof dry. Truly, there's a wealth of 12th magnitude galaxies in this area. We're in Aries again with NGC680, galaxy magnitude 11.9, 1.8 by 1.6 arc minutes, largish, spiral of a lenticular type, but with peculiarities. It must have recently absorbed another neighbor. 130 million light years distant, plus almost 22 degrees in declination, and quite apparent on the screen, even though it looks pretty crappy from light smearage due to high atmospheric clouds and ice. NGC681 is pretty deep south, especially under these skies, minus 10.5 degrees. We're in Cetus. NGC681 is a magnitude 12 galaxy, largest 2.7 by 1.8, 77 million light years distant. Another fine galaxy for anybody who has a 12-inch scope and has good clear dark skies. This whole series would be very well worth the eyepiece time taken to track them all down. Of course, we're not seeing much of anything on the screen, nothing like we would be able to had we had clear dark skies. I should have mentioned 681 had a number of nice attributes. I don't think it was annular, but it had a lot of nice features like a bar, etc. that would be worth tracking down for. Here we have NGC682, galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 13, 1.4 by 1.1 arc minute, apparent size lenticular spiral, 247 million light years distant, means it's probably about 110,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 15 degrees, and we aren't going to see much of anything except for a few stars on the screen, given these skies on this occasion. Back up to Aries, from Cetus the Whale to Aries the Ram, NGC683 galaxy, magnitude 13.5. 1.1 spiral with some peculiarities, 236 million light years distant, puts it at about 80,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 11 3/4 degrees, and who knows. Another one of those nice 12th magnitude galaxies and largest, NGC684 galaxy in triangular magnitude 12.4, 3.4 by 0.7 arc minutes. Qualifies that as a highly tilted, almost edge-on spiral with a lowercase b, 161 million light years distant. We're at plus 27 and over a half degrees of declination. I believe the galaxy is present right there on the screen. Very nice that we were able to get any kind of view. We just headed deep south into Fornax, the furnace. I believe this is the first Fornaxian galaxy, NGC686. Another brightie, magnitude 12.4, 1.7 by 1.4 arc minutes, lenticular spiral, 204 million light years distant. We're at minus almost 24 degrees in declination, and getting the view we might expect on such a night. Virtually overhead is NGC687, a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 12.3, but fully face-on, 1.4 by 1.4 arc minute. Spiral of the lenticular class, 234 million light years distant. We're at plus 36 degrees. Right ascension, 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 33 seconds. And the galaxy is visible on the screen, but there's so much smearage, it's nothing. Not exactly the most aesthetic view, even though it's almost virtually overhead. NGC688, it's a galaxy in triangular, magnitude 12.7, 2.4 by 1.5 arc minute, spiral with a bar and lowercase b, 186 million light years distant, puts it about the size of Messier 31, some 150,000 light years in diameter. We are at plus 35 and change degrees in northern declination, and we are seeing the galaxy right where we might expect it on the screen. Deep down into Fornax once again for NGC689, magnitude 13.6, 1 by 0.6 arc minute, spiral with a lowercase ab. 187 million light years distant means it's probably about 70,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 27 and almost a half degrees in declination. Back towards the north in Cetus, NGC690 is a galaxy, magnitude 14.2, 1.2 by 0.8 arc minutes. Kind of football shaped, spiral with a bar and lowercase c, 228 million light years distant, puts it at about 80,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus almost 17 degrees in declination. NGC691 is further north in the Aries at plus 20, almost 22 degrees declination. 691 is magnitude 11.4, another one of those nice galaxies, 3.4 by 2.5 arc minutes, spiral with a lowercase base bc. 120 million light years distant, puts it at about 110,000 light years in diameter. I do believe we can faintly make out the aura of the galaxy on the screen. And at this point here, I'm thinking to myself, it is so cold, miserable, and there's such terrible seeing that I probably won't come out to capture the 750 series as I had hoped, but you never know. I might just feel motivated and warm up enough inside that I'll pull it off. And never know, conditions could also improve. Hey, moving on. I did not expect it, but we are now looking at another galaxy in Pisces, the Fishes, NGC693 galaxy, 12.4, 2.2 by 1.1. Perfectly aspected oblate spiral with a lowercase a, 69 million light years distant. This baby's probably about 50,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 6 degrees and change in declination. NGC694 is another galaxy in Aries, magnitude 13.7, smallish though, 0.6 by 0.4 arc minutes. Lenticular spiral, 133 million light years distant, probably puts it at about 50,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus almost 22 degrees in declination. So cold out, the handset froze up. Anyway, we're at NGC695 galaxy in Aries, magnitude 12.8, even smaller, 0.5 by 0.4 arc minutes, but this is a lenticular spiral. It's 434 million light years distant, probably 70,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 22.5 degrees in declination. NGC699 puts a wrap on the 650 to 699 series. One, I skipped over a couple were too deep south in Fornax, and one we had already imaged earlier, had a duplicate entry. 699 is a galaxy in Cetus, magnitude 14, 1.6 by 0.3 arc minutes, so it's an edge-on spiral with a lowercase bc. 244 million light years distant, means it's pretty large, maybe 125,000 light years in diameter. We're at minus 12 degrees, right ascension, 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 43 seconds. And I'm kind of wondering, do I have to reset the focus? Did something happen to the focus, or is this really sky conditions? I will play with it, and then we will have another look at 891 before I knock off Carpe Noctem. Here's a view of Maycab Alpha Ceti, and here's what happens when you twist the focus knob. Look at that. Look at that. Something did upset the focus, whether it was the temperature change or not. Anyway, that gives me hope. We're just going to go with the data and all that. I am just way too cold and the battery's kind of low on the camera, but let's go take a look at 891. Let me lock down the focuser. Come on, where is that thing? If I can find it with my cold hands. Let's probably loosened it. There we go. So there was another reason why we were getting such poor views. I'm sorry, folks. I'm satisfied with capturing the data. If I get a chance to view some of these really fine Aries and other galaxies again in the future, then maybe we'll re-image them, but for right now we're just going to have to be satisfied with the data. Let's go to 891. Okay, after refocusing the scope, we are now having a final view of NGC 891. It's appearing rather reasonably well. You can see the ice crystals all over the screen. I'm starting to see the dark bar. So maybe part of our problem was the focuser. Something mechanical could have happened, or there could have been some kind of a temperature effect on the focus. It's not something I ordinarily check before I view. Probably something I should have a look at. But 891 is showing a bit of the dark lane, bisecting this beautiful edge-on 2 by 12 arc minute 8.9 magnitude galaxy. And with that, I'm going to say Carpe Noctem. I need to save my hands for music. It is very frigid outside. The sky conditions don't warrant any more observing, but you never know. As I said earlier, I may get motivated. But anyway, so that's a wrap on the 650 to 699 series. I'm sorry there were so many nice 12th magnitude galaxies of size that I couldn't get a better view of them, a better night, better focus. You never know. Maybe we'll have a chance to revisit, maybe not. I can't even at this point, I can't even barely make out the 2 second magnitude stars in the belt of Orion. So I would say the limiting magnitude, since I'm not wearing glasses at this point, is probably about 3.0, which had a serious effect on our viewing this evening. But at least there's that view of 891 in proper focus with its beautiful star field about it. Carpe Noctem.